Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello, I'm Tina Tower and welcome to Inspired. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to go from failure to fabulous. So my business experience that I've had so far, I've had a lot of practice of going from failure to fabulous several times and back again. But it was really a few years ago that in my own version and definition of success, that I was as far to the side of failure that I could possibly imagine. And that's really what I'm going to cover off today, is when I was down in that pit of failure and what I did and the steps that I took to build that back up to a fabulous life. So last year was really the pinnacle year for me of that tipping point of the turnaround when I won the 2014 Telstra Australian Young Business Women of the Year. And that was really a significant shift for me in knowing that I've taken that leap from being that failure and that struggle that we have through business into moving on the other side and having that really enchanted and inspired life. So that's really what I want to share today. Above all else, success does not happen by accident. So I talk to people all the time, and there are always stories in the media that will tell you otherwise, that will give you an example of people becoming an overnight success. But it very rarely happens in that way. Often it's years and years of consistent effort that you have to put in to actually become successful. So for me, my journey started when I was 20 years old. So I started my first business at 20, which was called Reach Education. So Reach Education was a combination of a toy store, a tutoring centre, a birthday party place, and ran 7 days a week. So when I opened my first business, obviously I was very young and naive and had no idea what I was doing, which was quite a blessing in disguise. So I started and I had $8,000 to start my business, which I thought was an absolute fortune, and that was gone just on gyp-rocking the walls. So the lessons did start very, very early on. So my encouragement would be to get as much education as you possibly can, which I'm going to touch on further later. But through Reach, we had 4 years of running that business, and I realised that it was a really bad business model because it relied on me solely so that it didn't function when I wasn't there. So I did everything quite early. I got married when I was 21. I had my first baby when I was 24. And so the business really struggled once I had my first baby because I hadn't set it up in a way that I could go on and have my children and be with my children and have the staff as well. So towards the end of Reach Education, I've tried to figure out how I could leverage it and run a more effective business model. So through Reach, we'd had a child came in, his name was Owen, and he came into the tutoring centre and he struggled in school so much. So the first day that he came in, he sat down and we got out the reading assessment and he sat down and he burst into tears. And he was one of these really tough guys. He was in year 3, really burly sort of a young boy, and to see him just dissolve like that and break down and think that he had no confidence, and he would sit there and go, I'm stupid, I can't do it, I don't know what to do. And he knew that all day in class, all his friends could come at all of the answers and there was nothing that he could do, he just couldn't put it together. So I had the theory in that moment to create a school readiness program. So my theory was that if we could get to children in the years before they started school and build them up with that sort of confidence, then once they started school and ran into problems that they couldn't solve, they would know that they were good learners and they'd just solve them anyway. So that's when I started the Begin Bright program. So Begin Bright consisted of a school readiness program in the 2 years before school. So I was able to design that whole curriculum, and then we started licensing it to teachers around the country. So licensing is very different to franchising in the way of it was just a single program that we were able to sell and people were able to use. But we couldn't have any of the brand control. So once we sold the license for our Begin Bright program, we had no control in how it was being executed, how it was being promoted or any of those things. And the control freak in me really wanted to have more say over that. So I was in a workshop, a big business and marketing workshop one day, and they spoke about franchising, and it was the moment for me where I went, what a brilliant idea. That sounds like the perfect business model for what we need to do. And so we started the journey for franchising in 2011. So we've now been franchising for officially 4 years, and the road has definitely been an extremely rocky one. Franchising is not for the faint-hearted. If you ever want to franchise your business, give me a call. I can tell you all of the pitfalls with that and all of the benefits as well. But franchising for us was something that I thought sounded like an ideal business model. So we get an owner in a tutoring centre. The owner has the care so that they hire really great staff to teach the children in that centre as well. If we just owned multiple company-owned centres, we wouldn't have that same level of care and love in the centres that we do by having a franchising model. So franchising was definitely the best path for us to go. So what I want to talk to you about is the 10 steps to your success. So the 10 steps that I have gone through in the last 11 years of my business journey, from that place of struggle and that place of failure, right through to now having that enchanted and inspired life. So the first real big one is your attitude. There is so much to be said for the psychology behind your business success. I've heard Anthony Robbins say it's 90% psychology and 10% skill. And I truly, truly believe that. I mean, we can see so many examples of people that are skillfully brilliant at their job. They're absolute technicians. But when it comes to owning their own business, they're absolutely hopeless. They can't control any of the marketing. They can't control any of the profit and loss statements, any of the cash flow, anything like that. So it's really important to have all of those skills to be able to do it, but also the self-belief, to believe that you can. There are so many people, I mean, the small business value rates in Australia are absolutely staggering. 95% of small businesses will fail in the first 5 years. And I put that down to a lot of people just don't believe that they can. They just aren't willing to put in that hard work to get them through to the other side. So I think you need to remove I can't from your vocabulary, because the second that you say, I can't do it, you are absolutely correct. You can't do it. If you really have that self-belief and push yourself forward, you eventually can. A lot of people have said, how do you get to where you've gotten? And I'd like to say that it was some stroke of brilliance that I had and some skill that I had that other people didn't. But I really don't. All it comes down to is that I believed I could and I kept going until I did. So a lot of the time, I think the speed of your success will depend on your ability to continue past setbacks without any loss of enthusiasm or momentum. So I want you to imagine, I don't know if you've seen those, they're like the blow-up, bouncy sort of clown dolls that you see at circuses, and they're like little punching bags. Sometimes they're at the front of car yards as well with the big arms. And often I feel like in business, that's what you are. You're one of these things that get punched down constantly, day after day, and you just have to bounce back up again with a big smile on your face. And really, if you want to be successful in business, is what you have to do. You absolutely have to bounce back up and continue on without losing any of that momentum. Because the second that you say I can't and you have a big pity party for yourself, it's all over. You won't be able to continue on anymore. Don't worry too much about it. I think too much, the game is taken out. It is all a game. At the end of the day, we do it for the fun of it, and you have to remember that. If you want a really easy life, if you want to have that consistent income week after week, go and get a job. Work for someone, be really happy. We are not in business for the reward of the money regular every week. You're not going to know how much you're going to earn week to week. You are in it for the fun of it, and remember, don't lose that fun. The other major thing is, what will you say yes to? So I'm a true believer that every time you say yes to something, you are inadvertently saying no to something else. And you have to make sure that you're consciously choosing what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to. So I'm a mum and I've got 2 children. This photo is of my children when they were very young. Today is actually the baby's 6-year-old birthday, which is very exciting. But it's been a very big struggle for me through motherhood to go, what am I saying yes to? Because every time I say yes to a business opportunity, I'm saying no to seeing my family in that instance, and I have to be okay with that. Every time I'm saying yes to going off with my family, I'm saying no to a business opportunity, so I have to be okay with that. So it's something that I think people beat themselves up way too much about. And it took me a couple of years to really get over that whole guilt-ridden feeling that I couldn't do everything at once. And the thing is, I really do believe that you can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. That old saying is completely true. So I think you do need to be willing to make sacrifices. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to reach the level of success that you want to in your business. But you have to really choose what sacrifices you're willing to make and be okay with that. Because once you do sacrifice it, you can't get it back. So you have to be able to live with yourself in those decisions and not regret it. And if you have done it, never regret it. You've done it, get over it, move on, make better decisions in the future. So I think focus on what you know is important for you. Have your own values really clear so that when you need to make those decisions, it's an easy decision. You know if it fits into your values or not, and you can easily say yes or no. So every time you say yes, remember you're saying no to something else and consciously choose. Embrace change. They say that change is one of the scariest things that people go through. But unless you are willing to constantly change, you will never succeed in business because things are changing at such a rapid rate. And I think that's one of the advantages of being a younger person in business, is that change has always been a constant in our life, but you have to be able to roll with the change and to create the change. Otherwise, your business won't be able to stay at the head of the curve. So for us, you saw at the beginning in the slides how quickly we changed from that normal suburban tutoring centre into licensing, into franchising. So we had to keep changing and keep evolving so that we could stay ahead of the game and stay the best that we could possibly be. And now that we've grown extremely rapidly, in the first 7 months that we were open in franchising, we opened 7 franchises. And then I had to put on the brakes for a little bit because it did change all too quickly. So that's another thing that you have to be conscious of, is that you can manage your change as well, and that it's enough for you to survive in. The biggest change for me came about when we had finally gotten over our hurdle and we had finally moved off from that horrible ground of failure, and we decided we really...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.